Today we're counting down the top 10 most valuable and historical DC Comics of the year 1961. Let's jump into the list. Based on the Overstreet Price Guide, ranking number 10 of the year with a $2,100 price tag is Batman 139. This key issue features the first appearance of the original Batgirl. We also have Batwoman in this issue, and it's the first appearance of the Blue Bowman, formerly called Signal Man. We have Sheldon Moldoff cover and art. Print run estimated at 500,000 copies on this book. It ranks 10th of the year and also 36th most valuable DC comic of the entire 1960s. On the CGC census, we see the numbers are skyrocketing. There are 477 copies now graded. There are 10 super high grade copies at 9.0 or higher. Heritage Auctions has sold 56 copies since the year 2000. Works out to more than 2 a year. Here's the classic yellow background cover, still 10 cents. Big Comics Code Authority stamp on the top right corner. In the Overstreet Price Guide annual in the last decade, this book has been on fire. Huge growth every year since 2015. And you can see the book in just that short 6-year period, the book has more than tripled in low grades and has tripled in high grades. On the CGC census, the highest graded copies are 9.4. There's 4 of them. And then we also have one 9.2. Number 9 of the year is Justice League of America, number 4. In this issue, Green Arrow joins the team. We have Murphy Anderson cover art. Many of our classic DC characters are in the team at this time. Print run estimated at 335,000 copies. Number 9 of the year and 35 of the decade. CGC census continues to grow, 302 copies graded and 16 high-grade copies of this book. Heritage has sold a whopping 155 copies, one of the most important 60s series from DC. Yellow background cover on this, showing all our favorite heroes captured. In the Overstreet Price Guide, slow but steady growth in all grades. The book has only gone up about 50% in low grades in the last 16 years. And in high grade, the book has gone up about 2.5 times in raw copies. There are 2 9.4s and 7 9.2s of this book. Next on their list is another book that's really growing in popularity. Number 8 of the year and 21 of the decade. Green Lantern number 7 features the first appearance of the villain Sinestro. And this is possibly Green Lantern's biggest villains. Of course, demand really growing for this book. It's surprisingly still quite affordable. Print run estimated at 255,000 copies for this book. Census is really growing on it. 649 copies now graded, 29 high-grade copies, and Heritage has sold 102. White background cover makes this one a tough one to find in high grade. And on the census, definite movement consistently year by year, and a big boost just in the last year alone as people are realizing how low affordable this book is. Finally passed the $100 market in low grade for this book, but you can see in the last 16 years, the book has almost quadrupled in lower grades, and it's gone over 6 times in high grades. And on the census, you can see there is actually 2 9.6s and 5 9.4s. The number 7 comic of the year is Justice League of America, number 3. This is the first appearance of Ken Jarreau. This black cover is hard to find in high grade. There is a 9.4 Levittown Collection pedigree copy. Print run again estimated at 335,000 copies. This is one of the big books of the decade, ranking number 20. On the census, it continues to grow, 387 copies graded, only 6 high grade due to the black cover. And Heritage has sold 168 of this book. In the Overstreet Price Guide, this book's been moving a little slower in lower grades in recent years, but it snuck its way up a little bit again this year. So you can see in this 16-year time period, it still has not doubled in low grades, but in high grades, it's gone up almost 2.5 times. On the census, the highest graded copies, there are 3 9.4s and 2 9.2s. Next on our list, Justice League of America, number 2. And this one ranks 6th of the year, 19 of the decade, 510 copies graded of this purple pinkish background cover, 22 high grade copies, and Heritage has sold 158. And in the Overstreet Price Guide, this book is really stalled in the last 5 years. Very little movement at all. Just considered a bit overpriced, but we'll see what happens next year, if we'll have a market correction or not, since a lot of these DC books now seem to be undervalued. Currently a $3,300 book. There are 5 9.6s and 2 9.4s. Next on our list, number 5 is Showcase number 34. And this is the first appearance of the Silver Age Atom. And this is bringing back another Golden Age character. They already did this with the Flash and Green Lantern, so they knew they had a winning formula. So we get a new Atom in this issue. Print run estimated at 240,000 copies, number 5 of the year and 14 of the decade. These are all major books. And 742 copies graded with 17 high grade, 197 at Heritage. Lots of demand for this book. Overstreet Price Guide, though, shows how common it is. Slow but steady movement year by year in all grades. And it's now a $4,900 book. There are 3 9.4s and 2 9.2s on the census. Number 4 of the year is Brave and the Bold 34. This key issue is the first appearance of the Silver Age Hawkman and Hawkgirl with cover art by Joe Kubert. And this book had a severe market correction in 2013. It was just considered overpriced, but it has started to move up again. It's number 4 of the year and 13 of the decade. Print run estimated at 245,000 copies. CGC census, quite a lot of them, 672, 27 high-grade copies. Heritage has sold 173. This dark blue background cover. And our 2 heroes are on the cover, in fact. Overstreet Price Guide. As I mentioned, there was a market correction. Prices crashed way down, but now they're almost back to where they were a decade ago in low grades. And high grades has finally surpassed where it had peaked. So it's now a $4,900 book, but it was $4,800 a decade ago. And on the census, we have 6 9.4s and 6 9.2s. Next on the list is GI Combat 87. This is the most valuable war comic of the year. It's the first appearance of the Haunted Tank. We have a Russ Heath gray tone cover that is considered a classic cover at this time. Print run estimated at 240,000 copies. On the census, you can see how rare war comics are. There's only 158 copies graded and only 1 copy graded 9.0 or higher. And Heritage has only sold 32 copies in the last 20 years. Overstreet Price Guide, after a little stall, it's had a bit of a bump back up, but overall it is a good mover. In the last 16 years, you can see the book has almost quadrupled in low grades and more than quintupled in high grades. On the census, we only have 1 9.0 and 1 8.5. Number 2 of the year is Showcase number 30. This book features the first appearance of the new Silver Age Aquaman and also gives his origin. We have Howard Purcell and Sheldon Moldoff working on this book. And it's number 2 of the year, number 6 of the entire decade. This is a major key for DC of the Silver Age. And print run estimated 214,000 copies. On the CGC census, we see there's 626 copies, 22 high-grade copies, 75 sold at Heritage Auctions, yellow background cover. Overstreet Price Guide, lots of demand for this book, and you can see good growth. This used to be a very affordable book, but in low grades, it's gone up 4 times in this time span. And look at high grade. Now an $8,000 book, it's gone up at least 6 times in this time period. On the census, there are 4 9.4s and 8 9.2s, bringing us to the number 1 most valuable and most important DC comic of 1961. It is Flash 123, the first Silver Age appearance of the original Golden Age Flash. And the Flash of Two Worlds storyline is a landmark which would totally affect how stories are written in the DC and Marvel universes later on. So here we have 2 parallel Earths, and we have a Flash living in each one, and we have the Golden Age Flash here in this story. And in fact, the cover features the 2 Flashes, of Two Worlds. It's the #1 book of the year, #4 of the decade, and print run estimated at 305,000 copies. This was a pretty popular title for DC at this time. And look at the census, over 1,000 copies graded, 20 high-grade copies in existence. Heritage has sold 199 in their auctions. Classic cover for sure. In the Overstreet price guide, surprisingly, it has actually stalled in the last year, but overall has had pretty nice steady growth year by year. And the book has not quite tripled in lower grades, but in high grades, the book still has gone up quadrupled in this time span. And on the census, there is a 9.6 of this historic book and 7 9.4s. Now let's compare the top 10 books on the CGC census, see which ones are most common, which are the ones that people really seem to want, which ones the dealers are focusing on. So Flash 123 definitely is way in the lead with 1,022 copies, followed by Showcase 34 with 742, and Showcase 30 and Brave and the Bold 34, both very high in the list. On the low end, of course, is GI Combat 87. Otherwise, the rarest book on this list is actually Justice League of America #4, but it's not actually rare. It just shows that demand is a little lesser on this book, so fewer copies have been graded. Looking at the highest graded copies, we can see that 9.6 exists for the Flash 123, and also for Justice League of America #2. There's 5 of them, and Green Lantern 7. Everything beyond that is lower, 9.4 or less. And of course, GI Combat has only 1 9.0. There you go, the top 10 most valuable historic DC comics of 1961. We do this series every week. Please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.